It started like any other weekend. Friday afternoons were always something to look forward. 2 books closed, uniforms off, the buzzing feeling of freedom after the school bell rang. I wasn't the kind of guy who got invited to parties or had wild plans after class. My idea of a good time was curled up in bed with my sketchbook, music playing through cracked headphones, and the door locked so no one could judge the world I created in those pages. But that weekend was different. My my best friend since 6th grade texted me during lunch break. Sleep over at my place? PS5 plus pizza plus horror movies? 3 things I couldn't resist. I replied with a quick yes, even before I asked my mom. 5:47 p.m. I stood outside Mikol's gate with a backpack. My hoodie sleeves pulled down over my fingers, trying to hide how nervous I was. Even after years of friendship, stepping into Mikol's house always made me feel like a visitor from another world, one with better lighting, fuller fridges, and a dad who smiled at you when he walked by. I rang the bell to Mikol open the door. With his usual grin, hair messy, controller in one hand, a half-eaten cookie in the other. "Dude, you brought snacks, right?" "I am the snack," I said, half-joking, though my heart sped up when he laughed. He led me in. The familiar smell of his house, something between laundry detergent and cinnamon, wrapped around me like a warm blanket. They were away for the weekend at a wedding. It would just be me, Mikol, and Zion, Mikol shouted, halfway up the stairs. "We're starting Spider-Man without you if you don't come down." That's when I remembered his older brother was home from university. Said, "I'm a few times before, usually in passing. Tall, broad shoulders, always dressed in black or something sleek. His presence had an aura, not the loud, obnoxious kind. The kind that made a room quieter when he entered. Like people respected him without needing a reason, and I was. Just the quiet art kid with a soft voice and too many secrets, including one I hadn't admitted even to myself. I heard heavy footsteps coming down the stairs. I turned instinctively, and that's when it happened. Zion walked into the living room, barefoot, towel over his shoulder, white shirt clinging. To his damp skin, his hair was wet fresh out of the shower. He paused when he saw me, brows slightly raised, his eyes locked on mine. Just for a second, long enough to freeze my breath. "Hey," he said, his voice smooth, deep, too calm for what it did to my chest. "Hey," I replied, voice cracking like a teenager in a soap ad. Zion gave a small nod, a faint smirk tugging at the edge of his lips before walking past us into the kitchen. I turned back to Mikol, pretending nothing had happened. But everything had. 9:13 p.m. pizza boxes on the floor. Horror movie paused, Mikol asleep on the couch, controller still in his hand. I couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts. I got up to grab a glass of water, careful not to wake him. The hallway lights were dim. I padded toward the kitchen barefoot, trying to be silent. But someone was already there, Zed, leaning against the counter in a black tank top, sipping from a steaming mug. His gaze lifted as I entered. "You couldn't sleep either?" he asked. I shook my head, trying not to stare at his arms. "Same." He said, "Night's always been loud, even when it's quiet." That sentence sat between us for a moment. It's too poetic for midnight small talk. He poured tea into a second mug and handed it to me. I didn't ask. "If you wanted it," he said with a grin. I smiled, holding the warm cup in both hands. We stood in silence. Something about that moment felt personal. Zayn leaned back against the counter, his voice softer this time. "You and Mikhail are close." "Yeah," I said. It's like the only person who really sees me." Zion looked at me for a long moment, then said quietly, "I see you too." My chest tightened. He looked away quickly, as if realizing what he'd just said, or regretting it. But the words had already landed. We didn't speak after that. I returned to the couch, pretending to sleep next to Mikol. But I could still feel Zion's eyes on me, even from across the house. The house was silent, except for the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak from old floorboards. Mikol was snoring softly, curled into the couch cushions like he hadn't moved since we started watching the second horror movie. I lay there, eyes wide open, blanket halfway over me, mind racing. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him standing there in the kitchen earlier, offering me that mug of tea like it meant something more. His words repeated in my head like a soft chant. I see you too. What did that mean? He barely knew me. I was just his younger brother's awkward, artsy best friend, the one who doodled in his notebooks and barely spoke above a whisper. He was the golden son older, confident, effortlessly charming. And yet he looked at me like ... I sat up, heart pounding. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed a roar, water, or something to stop my brain from spinning. I got up quietly, careful not to wake McCall, and tiptoed back to the kitchen. The lights were off. Moonlight spilled in through the window. I reached for the glass cabinet, but a low voice behind me made me jump. You're up again? I turned. Zion sat at the table, one leg crossed over the other, barefoot, in gray sweatpants and a dark t-shirt, sipping from the same mug of tea like he'd never moved since earlier. I couldn't sleep, I said. He nodded, then gestured. To the chair across from him. Sit. I hesitated. Why was my chest so tight? Why did he feel so ... magnetic? I pulled out the chair and sat, clutching the cold glass in my hands. He didn't say anything for a while, just looked at me. Not in a creepy way. In a way that made me feel like he was searching for something behind my eyes. I remember what it's like, he said suddenly. I blinked. What? Being 17? Feeling like the world doesn't hear you. Like your thoughts are too loud, but your voice is too soft. I stared at him. That was exactly how it felt. You always seemed put together, I said softly. He gave a quiet laugh. Yeah, that's the mask. Zion leaned back in the chair, eyes half-lidded, voice low. You and McCall are different. He's loud. Always has been you. You're observant. You watch things, feel things deeper. My heart fluttered. He was right. I didn't even know this man. Not really. And yet he was reading pages of me, no one had ever bothered to turn silence the good. It's kind, comfortable, soft. The kind that made me want to tell him everything. I draw, I said before I could stop myself. A lot. He looked at me. I know. Cal showed me your sketchbook once. My cheeks burned. Oh God, he what? Zion smiled. Don't worry. I made him give it back. He shouldn't have taken it without asking. So the next morning felt unreal. Sunlight streamed through the living room window, catching dust motes and golden beams.
Al was still
out cold. Curled up in a blanket burrito, completely unaware of the quiet chaos unraveling inside my chest, I sat up slowly. My body stiff from the couch, my mind still tangled in memories of the kitchen conversation, of Zion's voice, his words. That look in his eyes, that almost dashed touch. It was like someone had peeled away a layer of the world. I thought I knew and revealed a version where everything was sharper, more electric, more alive. I heard footsteps. Zed walked into the room, shirtless. Again, a towel slung over his shoulder, water still dripping from his hair. This time I didn't jump. He looked at me, paused, and offered the softest smile. Not a "you're my brother's friend" smile. A secret smile, a shared memory from midnight. Kind of smile? Sleep okay? He asked, voice rough from just waking up. Yeah, I lied. Good. He walked into the kitchen like it was nothing. But it wasn't. Nothing was anymore. 10:42 a.m., McCall was finally awake, half-sealing at Zion for eating the last chocolate croissant while the three of us sat around the dining table. The conversation was light, funny, casual, at least on the surface, but every time Zion passed me something, his fingers lingered. Every time I laughed, every time McCall looked away. A current of silent tension buzzed between us. This wasn't a crush. It was a slow burn. I was already too close to the fire. Later that day, Zion offered to drop me home. McCall had a family Zoom call with his cousins or something and waved us off without a second thought as we got in the car. I realized this would be the first time I'd ever been alone with Zion outside the house. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. The drive was mostly quiet. Zion tapped the steering wheel lightly to the beat of the song, playing low on the radio, something soft and lo-fi. He glanced at me once. You okay? Yeah? You're quiet? I shrugged, just thinking about last night. I looked at him. He didn't look away. Yeah, I said quietly. He nodded and pulled the car over onto a quiet side street, engine still running. I haven't talked to anyone like that in a long time, he said. It felt honest. It was. We sat in silence again. But it wasn't awkward. It was heavy, loaded. He looked over at me again. I meant what I said, you know. I see you. I know, I whispered. Sline leaned slightly closer. His hand moved almost without thinking, like it was drawn to mine. His pinky brushed mine on the seat between us. It's just a whisper of contact. But it was enough. The world stilled, and then softly, he took my hand. Not fully. Just the tips of our fingers curled together. I didn't move, I didn't breathe, but my heart. God, my heart felt like it was going to explode. A car honked S. A car, hon, sorry, he said. Don't be. He looked at me. His eyes were full of something he wasn't saying. Not yet. I'll drop you here, he said. We both knew it wasn't because of traffic. It was because the closer we got to home, the more dangerous this was. I saw Mikal at school, and everything between us stayed the same. But whenever I walked past him in the halls, I wondered, does he know? Could he tell? Because I hadn't stopped texting Zion, we kept it casual at first memes. Book recommendations, songs, then it shifted. He sent a photo of a sketch I'd forgotten I showed him. Still thinking about this one, he wrote. I sent a voice note. Describing a dream where we were sitting in the car again. Only this time, he didn't stop. He didn't reply with words, just a voice note back. Breathing, slow, like he was listening to me breathe too. One night, he texted, come over. Mikal's not home. I stared at the screen for 5 minutes before replying. Okay. That night was the first time we sat close on the couch without Mikal there. First time he rested his hand on mine without pulling back. We didn't kiss, but his thumb brushed mine again and again, like it was a secret code. I want this. Do you? I didn't say it out loud, but in that moment, my entire body screamed, yes, it happened by accident. Mikal had borrowed Arham's phone to order food, something they'd done 100 times. But this time, a notification popped up. Zaya, A.N. Miss ya. I keep replaying that night. Cal stared at it, confused. At first, he thought it was a joke. But when he clicked it open, the thread unfolded. Dozens of late-night messages, flirting, planning, confessions, a photo. Arham smiling in Zion's hoodie. Mikal's fingers trembled, his stomach twisted. His heart, it just shattered. That evening, Mikal didn't say anything, not until Arham left. Then he stormed into Zion's room, holding Arham's phone like a loaded weapon. You want to explain this? He demanded, voice shaking with fury. Zayn looked at the screen and froze. Mikal's face crumpled. How long? Zion didn't lie. Since that night, the sleepover. You mean my sleepover? My best friend. Mikal, you kissed him. Zion lowered his gaze. It wasn't just a kiss. Mikal stared like he didn't know him anymore. Get out. Before I say something I can't take back. The next morning, Arham woke up to his mom at the door. Don't go to Mikal's house, she said, voice tight. They called. You're not welcome there anymore. The words hit him like bricks. He tried calling Mikal. No answer. Texted, blocked. He walked to their house anyway, but the gate was locked. Zion wasn't. Outside. Mikal didn't show up at the window. Everything was silent. Inside the house, Zion sat across from his parents. You what? His father asked, disbelief turning to anger. His mother's voice trembled. With Mikal's friend? It wasn't planned, Zion said quietly. I didn't mean to fall for him. You're older. Should have stopped it. I tried, he whispered, but I love him. His father stood. You'll end it now, or you'll leave this house." Zion said nothing, just nodded slowly. The cost of staying was silence. Scene 5. The silent Dicerhem checked his phone constantly. No new texts, no calls, nothing from Zion. Every night he lay awake, replaying moments. Their first kiss. The cafe. The night in his arms, he sent one. "Message, did you give up that easily?" It was never read. Mikal changed overnight. He avoided everyone. Didn't smile, didn't joke. Sat alone at lunch, staring blankly at the table. When someone asked about Arham, he just shook his head. "He's not who I thought he was."
Hey.
When he was alone, he cried. It's not just because Arham had lied, but because Zion had to dot his own brother, his own family. No goodbyes, no note. Micah found out from his mother. "He went to stay with an uncle in Karachi," she said. "He needs space. They all do." Arham only knew when he showed up at the house again and no one answered at the door. Zion's room was dark. Gone, just like that. Weeks passed. Arham stopped caring about school. He stopped replying to messages. He avoided friends, skipped meals. He'd go to the cafe they once met at, sit at their table. Wait, but Zion never came. He stared at his phone until sleep took him. Dreamed. Of hands he'd never hold again. His mother noticed. "You need to talk to someone." "I'm fine," Arham whispered. But he wasn't wont. Wrote a letter. He poured everything into it, every thought, every feeling. Umatola's chat a year had passed, but Arham still remembered everything. The weight of a goodbye that was never spoken. Echo of a love that had never gotten a proper ending. Now, in his first year of college, Arham had learned how to wear a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He stayed busy. Classes, work-study, new friends. But the ache never left. He hadn't spoken to McCall in nearly 11 months. Zion, he might as well have been a ghost. It was late October rainfall, humming against the dorm windows like a heartbeat. Aham sat at his desk, pretending to study. The city lights outside blurred through raindrops like tears. He no longer let himself cry. He reached for his tea. And then he heard it, a knock on the window. Light, hesitant, then. A voice, muffled, but unmistakable. Arham, he froze. That voice lived in his memory, in dreams, in silence. But never in reality, not for a year. He rushed to the window. Zion stood in the rain, soaked, older, leaner. Still beautiful. Still. Somehow Sham didn't think. He ran down the dorm stairs, barefoot, his heart racing ahead of his body. When he flung the door open, Zion stood under the weak porch light, dripping, trembling but smiling. A real smile. A scared one, but real. "I didn't know if you'd even come," Zion said softly. Arham's throat was tight. "Why now?" Zion took a step forward. "Because I never forgot. Because I tried to erase you. Because every time I saw someone." "Laugh like you do." "I looked twice. Because I wanted to be someone you wouldn't have to hide for." Arham just stared, rain soaking into his shirt. Mixing with the tears he didn't realize were falling, Zion cupped his face. Carefully, as if asking permission with every breath, Arham leaned in, eyes closing, and they kissed. Not fast, not stolen. Not afraid, but deep. Certain. Like exhaling a year's worth of held breath. When they pulled away, Zion whispered, "I missed you more than I knew was possible." Arham laughed, wiping his face. "Took you long enough, Kedess."